Good morning, everyone. It's always kind of fun to come down here and speak. I always imagine that we've been wandering this path together probably for a lot longer than what we are aware of. And I always like to look out and just think about the times that we may have met or the things we might have gone through. Swami Prabhupada started me out on that kind of thinking. My first week in the monastery, I was reading the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna and came down to the table, and Swami asked me about my practice, which I was quite surprised about. And so I kind of shared with him what I was doing and what I was working on. And I told him that I was reading the Gospel. And he said to me, asked me a question that really I didn't understand at all. He said to me, he said, well, did you find yourself in there? And I was looked at him, I was like, what are you talking about, Maharaj? He said, well, don't you think it's strange? He said, you show up out of the blue. Nobody knew that you were coming. You knew nothing of Vedanta. And you come home from a trip to India and you come to the monastery and move in here. And he says, no one saw you anywhere on the radar. Nobody knew you were coming, including yourself. And now you're here. He says, don't you think that's a little odd that you, on the other side of the planet from Calcutta, would have found Thakur? And I've never read I've never read that book in the same way again. Because every time, well, for a long time I was looking through it, and I kind of decided I was probably Bhagavati, that the woman that came in and knew her place. She sat in the back of the auditorium, and Ramakrishna asks her, oh, you're getting old now. Have you been visiting the holy places, going on pilgrimages? And she was a little shy and said, no, how can I say that? No, I haven't done that. So Ramakrishna says, well, how about feeding the holy people, taking care of monks and the holy people in your life? And it says, she shrinkingly says to him again, oh, how can I even say that? And so Ramakrishna was silent for a moment, and then Bhagavati says, oh, wait, I've built a ghat. I've built a bathing ghat for people up. You can see it. It's just up the road. It's got my name. There's a plaque there. Yes, it's my plaque, my name. Right there it is written. And so then Ramakrishna encourages, like, oh, wonderful, you've done something, right? And she then gets bold and then comes up and touches Ramakrishna's feet, if you remember. And he jumps up, bouncing, literally jumping around the room, panting, it says. It uses the word panting, because it felt as if he had been stung by a scorpion, because as we found out in the initial conversation, that Bhagavati had been somewhat impure in her life. And so Ramakrishna jumps up, screams, yelps, runs over for this giant pot of Ganges water and dumps it all over his foot. And it says all the room is totally silent and everybody's just looking around like, oh my God. And Bhagavati, it says, was sitting there looking as if she had died, just completely mortified at what had just happened. And I really struggled with that. I think I tell this group this story a lot. You must inspire it in me. But she was mortified, and Ramakrishna sits down next to her and sings to her this beautiful song of "Dive deep, O mind, find the gems that lie within the shrine of the heart, and gather up all of those gems loosely lying around the front door to that shrine in your heart." And I really identify with that story more and more every time I read it, because as Bhagavati first approached God, she knew she belonged in the back. She knew that she had an impure life, that she struggled, that she wasn't making the right decisions. And so she sat in the back of the room. She judged herself accordingly and sat according to her knowledge and security in grace, which wasn't much. But then she comes to something that she's done, right? Ramakrishna asks her the first one. It's not unusual that he asked her those first two things, because he's always telling people that those are the ways to know God, holy company and singing the names and glories of God. And so, he asks her those two things first, and she says no. So, but when she comes to the fact that she has done something, she takes great comfort in the fact that she's done something, that she has at least built that bathing ghat. And you can see her getting more and more proud of it as she describes the plaque, and her whole name, which I can't remember, unfortunately, out there, and just was all beaming. And then she gets up and touches Thakur's feet, and he jumps up and stung like a scorpion. And for my whole life, how can I say that? For that first year after I read that story of Bhagavati, I was so sad, because I just kept thinking, I'm sure she doesn't have anything on me as far as a dark past. And how can I ever just keep going into the shrine knowing that if I ever touch Thakur, that he's going to be stung like a scorpion? And my feelings were really hurt on that. And I read that story again and again and again for quite some time before Mother finally gave me some peace, when I understood that Bhagavati stung the Master not because of who she was, but because of why she approached the Beloved. She approached the Beloved based on her own merit. Oh yes, I've done something right, something good. And so she goes forward to touch on the basis of her own performance, on her own behavior, her own life, and touches his foot. And of course, on that level of measurement, all of us are wanting. and you go and touch the divine, and he feels that horrible pain. Why? Because his nature is to alleviate your suffering. So we learn from Jesus that when the incarnations get touched by somebody with faith like that, that power, they can sense that power rush out of them and go in and fill that void in that other person. And so I imagine Bhagavati had a lot of space for a lot of grace in there, but not counting on grace. She paid the price of approaching God through ego and saw her true state, saw her true situation, and was overwhelmed in grief. But then the Lord sits down. I think she's the only one that he ever sits down and sings a song to personally in the gospel. And in that song, he reminds her, your value, my value, our value before the beloved is not in behavior, not in attainments, not in practices, not in disciplines, not in doctrines, dogmas, or any attempt of our own. Our faith in God, our right to be with the divine, is because of that divine image that the beloved has placed into us, that divine image of pure love, of pure wisdom, that is giving us the freedom through being to express the love of God in this moment, and to find our freedom in the fact that this moment is unchanging, is the only moment that has ever been. And in it we find our freedom. I want to share a beautiful poem from Hafiz, one of my favorite Sufi poets. And he invites us, he says, leave the familiar for a while. Let your senses and your bodies stretch out like the welcomed season into the meadows, the shores, and the hills. Open up to the roof. Make a new watermark on your excitement and love. Like a blooming night flower, bestow your vital fragrance of happiness and giving upon our intimate assembly. Change rooms in your mind just for a day. All the hemispheres in existence lie beside an equator in your heart. Greet yourself in your 1,000 other forms as you mount the hidden tide and travel back home. Yes, all the hemispheres in heaven are sitting around a fire and chatting while stitching themselves together into a great circle of love inside of you. It's this wonderful invitation to change rooms in your mind for a day, to try something new, to learn something new, to stretch out. I mean, part of my mourning, I think, is the fact that after 27 years in the monastery, 27 years of an okay practice, 27 years of, trying to get up and keep things together and try this impossible task, that after 27 years, finally I have found a life that's livable, found a life that's beautiful, found a life that has more meaning than what I'm able to manage sometimes, it seems, and a depth to that. And my sorrow in it is that, there were so many years where I just plugged along, just slogged along. Just like, oh my God, why did I ever do this? How did I ever do this? What was I thinking if I even attempting this, right? And just making it along, feeling less than accomplished, looking around at my brothers and just thinking every one of them was doing so much better and going so much higher. And as the years go on, I just felt like they're getting farther and farther ahead, and then there's me, struggling along, dropping things as I'm going, trying to pick them up. Just like when I would see this just comes to mind. I was called to India in March after my 2.5 years in Colorado, and for a new posting. And I went into the Swami Savirananda's office, the General Secretary Maharaj, and I have to go around and, for me, I'm nervous like crazy because all the protocols, it's all very important, to treat everybody and show the proper protocols when you meet them. So I'm going in and I go around the desk and I do my Ashtanga Pranam and I touch his feet and, to my head, and then I get up and I salute him, and then I put my hands out and he fills them with like 2 handfuls of candies, prasad candies, right? And I'm sure he did this on purpose for fun because he gave me more than I could hold. And so I'm sitting there, I'm like trying to hold them chest, there's four assistant general secretaries, him sitting there in the front, and then there's me, and I'm like backing down from his table and shimmying over. Candies are falling off. I'm thinking, well, that's prasad. I can't leave that laying on the floor like that, right? So I'm trying to bend down and pick up candies. Anyway, it was a perfect metaphor for what I was feeling about my spiritual life and about my role in this beautiful kingdom of the divine and the playing in it. And the sadness, that all of those years I had no idea what was coming. I always banked on this imagined day in the future when I would realize God, and everything that I was doing now was for this magical day in the future. And I'm happy to say that is utterly untrue. That is not why we practice, and that you don't have to wait, that you can borrow on your mortgage, as it were. That you can know this moment, this unending moment, this now, right here, right now, is the only moment there has ever been. This is the moment that Jesus walked through. This is the moment that Buddha walked through. This is the moment that Rama and Krishna and Chaitanya, all the great lovers of mankind, have enjoyed and have walked in this same moment that we're sitting in right now. This moment that never begins and this moment that never ends. It is the eternal I am. And I've learned to think about this moment deeply because in it is hidden a great amount of bliss when you start remembering the truth of the moment, when you fall out of the narrative of delusion, the narrative of being separate and small, of being in a moment that's one of billions of moments, where we get smaller and smaller and smaller with every thought about ourself that we have. And to find out that was all just a dream, just a delusion, that I could sit down and enjoy God. There's one thing that Thakur tells us to strive for in the gospel, and it's not for your enlightenment. Of course, he tells you to work toward that too, but he says to strive to enjoy God. This is why we sit, right? This is not my talk for the day anyway. I'm just running on a little buzz from my sweet mother. I walked in and wanted to share just the beautiful experience of walking into this shrine. It will always be one of my favorites because of the energy here from all of you doing your practice here, from the monks and the nuns doing their practices here twice a day. It's always a joy to walk into this room and to stand before the divine beloved for just a moment and to get a little bit of a soul tan in that light. But in this moment, when you approach the divine, as our friend Hafiz here says, invites you to go into a different room in your mind for a day. It reminds me of something playfully that I tried because my practice at this point is all playfully trying different things because so far I'm skating only on grace. And while that's going to be enough, that puts a smile on my face, it also inspires in me a desire, to do more, to reach higher, at least to become self-disciplined, and to rise up in love for everyone. And so in this moment of when he's inviting us to move into a different room, one of the things that I played around with, I told Thakur, I said, every time I sit down and I try and clear this mind, try to do anything in this mind, it's just noisy. I'm embarrassed by the thoughts that arise in there. What am I going to do? I said, I've just ruined this mind, and I can't go back and fix it. It's I started ruining it some good 50 years ago. And I asked, the thought came into my mind. I said, can I borrow yours? Right? Can I borrow your mind for a moment for this meditation? Right? Because I thought to myself, after all, we're in the universal mind, right? The only mind there is the universal mind, and you and I are all sharing in that same mind, but we've walled off a little section of it with our ego, a little white picket fence of egoism, so that we can have our little backyard. This is where my barbecue goes, and I use it when I want to, right? I mow this yard, take care of this place, but on this side of the picket fence, I'm the king. The other side of the picket fence, I don't care. Let anybody do what they want over there, right? And so this moving into the mind of God one day, was a wonderful discovery for me. It didn't work for everybody that I told about it, but I would encourage you to give it a shot. You know, sit down someday and consciously ask Mother, hey, can I use your mind today? Mine's a little wrinkled, needs some ironing, needs a lot of work. You know, and then sit down and use Mother's mind. You know, use Thakur's mind, use Jesus's mind, Buddha's mind. And then you sit there and you realize you don't have any of your own karma stored up in their mind. All of your karma is stored up in your own mind. And so you get to enjoy a moment of escape, a moment of freedom, right? Because in your practice, what are you doing? You know, what are you trying to do? If you have an answer, it's a trick question. If you have an answer, you're wrong. Because we're told dozens of times in the gospel that we're not doers, right? And so when you sit to practice, why is it that you feel like you have to do something if you've been told dozens of times that you're not the doer? Right? Holy Mother says, I remember sharing this verse last time, Holy Mother says, you know, you're the babies, I'm the mother. You don't change your own diaper. That's not your task, right? Your task is to dirty them, and then I'll put you on the table, and I'll change them, and I'll clean you up and set you on your way. So that's what Mother's doing. If you can imagine that in your practice, imagine you're laying on the changing table, and Mother's taking off your dirty diaper and cleaning up this little mess that you've made, like any beloved, delightful mother or father would do for their child, and she will fix you. And so what do? You lay there and be still. Try not to roll off the table, right? Try not to let that restless mind take you for a loop. Try not to pee on the Holy Mother, you know, while you're having your diapers changed, which was one of those things I didn't realize was a problem, but is. And so in spiritual life, when you sit there before the Mother, understand yours is to be. Yours is simply to enjoy. Your only striving in that meditation is to enjoy the divine, to enjoy God, to keep your mind on the beloved as long as you can, so that you can be realized. No, that's already yours. It's already finished. It lays in you unclaimed, not because you need to do something, but because you haven't turned in your claim ticket yet, right? Because that claim ticket requires an enormous amount of humility, because Mother's going to give you an enormous gift for free, a gift so big that every time you look at it, you think, oh, you don't deserve that. I can't take that. And so you haven't gotten it yet. But it's been offered to you continually, this beautiful enlightenment that sits for you ready-made, waiting for you to move from your identity in the mind, living as an ego amongst other egos, living as an ego which is just a thought of yourself, right? You can't be conceived of in your nature because you're not a particular, you're a universal. But while we're attached to the body, we see ourselves as a particular, right? We get stuck in that particular mode. We think that we're small. But the reality is that your enlightenment is completely finished right here in the shrine of the heart, where the absolute unchanging comes through a hole the size of a thumb. It's all just kind of fun speculation, and manifests this Satchitananda, this pure love, this pure wisdom. It comes in here pure, and then it gets pushed through the mind, right? Pushed through an ego, and it becomes all manner of things, as we see these days. Everything in the world is motivated by love. A love of what is what becomes the question, right? Because the ego places your loves on things of the body and things of the mind, and we get trapped in these endless little narratives that keep us out of this moment, this endless moment, keep us in that track of time where we follow stories, where we try and fulfill, you know, destinies and purposes and ideals, when in fact life is just this moment, always on the edge of the razor. There's no room for a story here. There's no room for God to have a will. There's no room for you to have a plan. There's no narrative that says you have to accomplish this, that, and the other. All of that happens in your mind and in your mind only, and is only imagination, is only thought, right? And you live in that world of thought, and those thoughts are as real to you as this building, right? To you. And so we get stuck in this world of thought, in these narratives that keep us pulled out of enjoying the moment, right? That's why it has become a striving for us to try and just sit still and be present for a moment, because we've got our favorite narratives running. That collection of narratives is called your ego, And it is synonymous with Maya. It is the veil. Your ego is the veil that prevents you from this moment seeing the beloved everywhere. It is what is keeping us from weeping out loud as we look at each other's faces right now and understand who we really are, what we really are. It prevents us from touching this beauty inside. Why? Because we're looking that way into the world of senses, because that's the only place we can be described. You as yourself cannot be described at all, right? That's why you have to know in meditation, in silence, what you are. That's why it just says, thou art that, right? Which is just somebody pointing. Thou art that, and you're like, what do I do with that? It's like, what do you mean I'm that? I thought I was this, right? And that's the trouble. But it's already completed within you. All you have to do is stop living as the thought of yourself. Stop believing the mental descriptions that create the thought of yourself. Because you are undescribable. You're infinite. You're immortal. You're outside of time. Causation has no effect on you. Right? Because you are the razor's edge of this moment. History is passing through you. You are not moving. You are the absolute unchanging. Everything that is moving moves through you. Right? And if you let it all pass, then you don't collect narratives. But if you like something out there and you don't want it to just come and go, because the flow of Maya is come and go, nothing remains in this place. And our suffering begins when we reach out and say, no, I want that to remain. And we grab it, and we're stuck, right? Living in the senses, where nothing lasts, where everything is a narrative, and we try to feed ourselves on narratives. We try to find a lasting happiness on narratives, right? This body that has changed so much in one lifetime, and yet it's me. How can something that changes as much as this thing does provide me any happiness, right? It used to do its best job, but my best days in the gym were still too few back then. I wasn't contented then. Now, I make a big wide circle around a gym when I walk by. Right? The body's changed, but I'm still stuck with it. I'm still identified with it, right? Oh, God, now it's mine and it's fat, right? Now it's mine and it's old, it's melting. All these beautiful things that Mother does to us to remind us of freedom, right? Every gray hair is to remind you of freedom, to remind you this isn't forever. You won't have to drag this morbid thing around forever, right? And if you're not convinced, she'll keep working on it. She'll keep taking your hair out, right? She'll keep letting everything melt more to the floor. All those little blemishes that nobody noticed until you were 60 are now getting names of their own, right? And you surrender, because there's no joy in this body. There's no joy in this mind. They come from joy, but they didn't bring the joy with them, right? So why identify with it? Stop thinking of yourself as a thought. Stop thinking there's something outside in your senses that you need to have, something you need to collect. Stop thinking that you need one more line of philosophy or another good stanza of a poem. Right? And understand that you are living and breathing and walking and sitting in God, in the divine, and that the nature of everything that is happening in the world, no matter how your mind and body break it down, everything has been motivated by love. Everybody is getting exactly what they need. Everybody will be okay. Everybody will pull through this. You go on being you. That's the only purpose of life. Of course, you have to discover what you are. You are Satchitananda. Now you can stop working. You are Satchitananda. Be that. In the moment, the only purpose of life is manifestation. That's the only story that can fit on the pinhead of the moment, right? Manifest. Manifest your highest ideal. Think of the purest, most long-lasting, deepest, kindest love you can imagine, and go build it. Go watch it happen, right? Fall in love with the divine because of who you are, because of what God has given you, not because of what you have given you, not because what you have done with you, which, if we're in the same boat, it's a paltry sum, I can assure you, right? So we trust in the love and the grace of God. When we sit down, we strive to enjoy God. How do you strive to enjoy God? You just sit there and keep opening. You find a fault. You don't say anything about it. You just open and show it to the Divine Mother. Oh God, look at that one. Right? And you just sit there with the beloved, just looking, just watching. And why is that so effective? Because presence is awareness. Awareness is Atman. And Atman is Satchit Ananda, right? That is the divine expression. When it steps into time, space, causation, you appear. You are the expression of love. You are the expression of wisdom. And your only job in this world is to let that happen. Make sure everybody that comes within your sphere knows you are the Lord of love, because they've never been treated so kindly, so positively, so joyfully, because they've never had their hand touched in a way that said they were okay all the way down to their soul. Be that person. You have that power within you, right? It is your nature to be able to love like that. It's your nature to be able to give love like that. You know, we have a small group that meets downtown in Santa Barbara. And a bunch of folks, most of them don't go up to the temple. They're not real comfortable with temples and churches. And so we've started meeting down in some people's houses and sometimes in the park. And we did this wonderful thing that we came up with together a couple of weeks ago. And it was a practice of this being in the moment, of being in the presence, and trying to touch the magic of that. Because we really, this is the challenge for me as a Swami, is to figure out how to wake up, you know, how to not forget continually this divine grace that lies right in front of us, right? As God says, closer to us than our own neck, right, is this grace, is this love of God. And so we go to this park, and we went because all of us were really frustrated, because we really hated the narratives that the world is presenting to us right now. Really hated the directions and the philosophies and the ideals that we're running after right now. And I said, you know, we could argue with them, but they're not arguing. We're not being asked. They're not interested in our viewpoint. So I said, let's not argue. Let's not go protest. Let's not go do marching. Let's simply start a new narrative. Just start a new narrative amongst ourselves, a narrative of peace, a narrative of beauty, a narrative of love. I said, so we're going to meet in the park on Sunday. So we met in the park that Sunday. And for 5 minutes, we sat and meditated together. And then we got our instructions. And the instructions were to walk around the park freely. But while you're walking, every single person that you see, send them a mental blessing, or say a mental prayer for their betterment, for their enjoyment of life, for their relationship with their family, for their whatever it is. You just walk around the park sending out blessings and prayers for everyone that you pass. And I said, do it in a constant state of readiness. Look and be available to Mother for service. If she finds any way that you can serve, then serve. If she doesn't, then just keep walking in blessing. So we did this for an hour, then we all gathered back again. We meditated again for 5 minutes, and then I just asked people, how was it? What went on for you? And there were so many good stories. There were some pretty funny ones in there too. But I was just really touched most by these two older white men that were there at the group. And that they were old and white men is a very important part of the story, because they were walking through the park. They decided to walk through the park together. And they stopped and watched this soccer game being played by a bunch of Latino guys out there. And they were standing there, and they said that as they were kind of, you know, picking out each person and sticking with them until their prayer was finished, you know, pick him, okay, oh, now him, all right, now that one. They were going through the whole team trying to put out their blessings and their good prayers, and in the meantime, one of the guys comes over and says, hey, why don't you guys come play with us? They got an open invitation, you know, from these kids, and they were like, oh, sure. So they went out and started playing the soccer game with these kids, and then the parents were there, came over and called everybody over for the picnic that they'd had. And these two guys got invited over to the picnic, and one of the men said, I sat down at the table, and there was this little toddler, little girl, and you know, she was so sweet to me. And so we were playing, and she came, you know, was put on my lap, and the parents were unconcerned. You know, he says, as an old white guy, I don't get to touch other people's kids. I've never had that experience. I'm always the creep, always the guy standing in the distance where there's no kids around him, no wife around him, And so getting that vibe. And he said, that was my most amazing thing. He said, both of us were talking about it. He said that we walked through that park today and neither one of us felt like an old white man. All of us felt like we belonged here. And this was the one thing that was shared by every single person about that experience that day, is that they felt no pushback from anyone. They did not at any point feel unwelcome or unwanted. And most of them talked about how different that was. Normally when you walk through, you just get different things from different people. And they said all of them could approach anyone. And some of them had very great conversations with people. One person went to one of those little vendors, this little guy pushing a cart selling ice creams, and bought an ice cream and Venmoed him $50 for it. Another person, the two of them, I was actually there for this one. It's quite hilarious, very Santa Barbara moment. They went up, there was these 3 or 4 high school girls sitting there, very much like Santa Barbara high school girls, the crop top and the baggy sweatpants and the flip-flops, and standing there, and they were like, fundraiser was written on the front of their ironing board, and they were selling cookies and lemonade. So one of the people went up and said, hey, what are you guys fundraising for? And they looked at each other like, well, we went out to buy some clothes for school, and my mom wouldn't get me all the clothes that I wanted. And so we thought we'd come down to the park and see if we could do a fundraiser for the rest of our school clothes. Okay. I loved them. I thought that was hilarious. And I loved the fact that they had the courage just to sit there and tell me like it was. I just want to buy some clothes. So we all made a donation that they might get the good clothes they wanted for their high school, for their experience in high school. But just that kind of fun, that kind of lighthearted joy is so wanting. Over 300 times in the gospel, Ramakrishna says to us, laugh, right? Enjoy me, right? Rabia writes that beautiful poem where God says, that's his whole thing, enjoy me, right? This morning I read a poem for the group in Colorado that where Thakur Hafiz was saying that God only knows 4 words. Come dance with me. Those are the only 4 words that God knows, according to Hafiz. Come dance with me. He says he's not the God of names. He's not the God of do's and don'ts. He's the God of come dance with me. Come enjoy this life. Vivekananda says in his writings, he says, this fire of freedom and purity is the nature of every soul. It's what brings us together, right? So it's what drives spiritual life. This fire of freedom and purity. It is in the nature of every soul. It is not a quality, because qualities can be acquired and therefore can be lost. The soul is one with freedom, right? This moment is the soul. This moment is God. This moment is love. This moment is wisdom. This moment is existence. This moment is the divine, right? So you are living and moving in God at this very moment. You are one with freedom in this moment, not freedom external to you. See, and the problem is that when I say you're free, immediately you're thinking outside of yourself, right? What do I do with this freedom? That's the first question that we ask, right? Someone says, hey, you are free. What's the first thing you think? Anyone?
Sex.
Oh, okay. You got very specific. Whew. Yes, good one, right? You immediately think, oh, what do I want? What do I want to do? Right? You say, oh, I'm free. And the first thing you say is, how do I bind myself with a desire? How do I work for something else? How do I get out of this freedom? Right? Because what is freedom? Freedom is to have no desire, where the moment is fine as it is, where your nature will inspire you to action. There's always plenty of room to love in a moment. If you're bored, open up that door, turn inside and open up the cupboard that says love. Open it up and find all the things that you can do, that you can share, that you can, just walking around this neighborhood, The thousands of ways that you can greet yourself in your many other forms that he talks about in that poem. To express your freedom from fear. So you're not intimidated by other people. Why? Because they are you. They are your very own. So you look in their eyes, you don't see their stories, you don't see their narratives, you don't see their problems, you don't say the reasons that they may be better than you or worse than you or prettier than you or fatter than you, right? You look at them and you look past the face, and then you look deeper past the name and past the personality, and then you bump into the beloved, to your divine, right? You'll bump into your divine in there. And when you start greeting each other like you love each other, even if it's just the cashier at the counter, your life will change, right? That is because your nature is Satchitananda. And when you are aware in the moment, the power of Satchitananda, as long as you are aware, is flowing through you. And that Satchitananda, that awareness of the divine presence, that awareness of your own awareness, however you want to approach it, is what will put you back together, what will teach you transcendence, which will lift you up and say you're bigger than the body, you're bigger than the mind, and all of your narratives, frankly, were trash. Right? Yours is to be love, and to walk around in constant awareness of love by sending your blessings out to everything that you touch, everything you talk to, everything you see, everything you hear. To remember, I am love. I have an infinity of it. I have a well that is springing up continuously in front of me. All I have to do is remember that and act accordingly and be bold, right? Because who is there to be afraid of? It's one of Vivekananda's wonderful poetic flights that he goes on. Who are you? What are you? I'm ever free, ever pure, ever beloved of God. I am the one without a second, right? This love is infinite in you. You won't run out of it. You can give it infinitely. And that grace, the grace that's on you right now, when you sit down in front of God, I was putting on my chadar one day, because this is it, this one, Pravrachika Mokshaprana gave that to me when I met her. And she put this chadar is God's grace to me. I was taught very early on. The mother said to me, when you sit in the shrine, and when the mind is guilty, when the mind is resentful, when the mind is angry, when the mind is unsettled, put this chadar around you. It is the grace of God. And know that you can sit in this shrine because of your invitation, regardless of your condition, regardless of your circumstance, regardless of what's going on in life. In this moment, you are free. In this moment, you inhabit the soul, which is everything around you, which is providing everything that you see, hear, taste, touch, and smell, taking those forms for you. To lead you through a life for what? To manifest. That's all. To manifest. If you live a life where in this moment, whatever comes to you, you accept it, apply your Satchitananda to it, and send it back out to the world. If you just keep doing that, you can stop asking yourself, what am I supposed to do with my life? You can stop asking yourself, what is my purpose? What do I need to accomplish? Nothing. Just a pure manifestation of your isness, right? Using the grace of God to overcome your fear of others, to use the grace of God to build up your own shortcomings, your own inferiority complexes, your own, poor ideas of yourself, the narratives that you've collected that keep you concerned and locked down into the moment. When you come into the moment and you realize that the moment is soul, that the moment is you, that it's not, that this point of reference that you carry around behind the senses is not what you are, right? You are the awareness itself that's going out in all directions. That awareness that expresses God as soon as you become aware of it, right? And so you use that in the moment. Let this moment be divine. Let myself be filled with God. Let me know that in this moment there is no past. I've never seen a past, right? I've never been to a past. Nobody's ever handed me a handful of past, right? Everything is only present. Even this imagined past, when I talk about it, it's always in the present. It's not the past, because there is no past. The past is unreal. It's one of the narratives that your mind created so that it could break God into little pieces, right? The first thing the body-mind does is break God, the singularity, the one without a second, break him into 5 different pieces, right? And then your mind is trying to figure out what the heck that is. What are these 5 pieces of? What do I do with them? And so it creates a relative world, because it takes all these pieces and then relatively organizes them. Okay, so that one's blue, this one's blue, but this one's alive. Oh, okay, so it's a blue alive thing. That goes over here, right? Now what's the mind doing? Trying to recreate God out of finite things. Impossible. In the moment, there's no room for a thought, right? Because a thought requires the triad, time, space, causation, or past, present, future, right? It requires it. You can't have a thought without those 3 things. You are not one of those 3 things. You cannot be described with one of those 3 things. So you are not in the mind, right? You are this moment. Think about it like a dream. Last night in your dream, you entered into your dream, you really believed you were in a dream. But what did you learn about it? You learned that the dream was in you, because when you woke up, it was gone. You're like, doggone it, I was sure that I was a caterpillar in that dream. And wow, I wake up, I'm a guy in orange curtains. What's going on? You know, how does this happen? And this is it. You find out that that dream was in you. You weren't in that dream. That those big band of thugs that were chasing you down the street, you know, to get you to ride the unicorn, they weren't there. They didn't exist. You see how powerful your mind is. It can go and give you an entire world for you to explore in your sleep, and give you narrative upon narratives to make you believe that it's real, that it can harm you, that it's bigger than you, that it's dangerous, that you better run, you better hide, I'm going to get you, right? In the dream. If that can happen in a dream, what does your mind do with the waking state, the waking dream? Creates those same narratives. And we have to push against it by constantly remembering. There's no past in this moment. There's no future from this moment. I'm free. In this moment, I can go any direction, any time, as long as I want. I am not formed by my past. I am not demanded by my future. I'm free, right? So if you feel stuck, if you feel like you're going nowhere, if you feel like you can't do anything, welcome to the reality. Accept it, open to it, and find the beloved in it, because everything you taste, touch, hear, and smell is of that divine nature. The soul is one with freedom, and the soul is one with existence, and the soul is one with knowledge. Sat Chit Ananda, existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute is the nature. The birthright of the soul and the manifestations that we see are its expressions, dimly or brightly manifesting itself. Even death is but a manifestation that we see are its expressions, right? Even death is a manifestation of the real existence. Birth and death, life and decay, degeneration and regeneration, all are manifestations of that oneness. So knowledge, however it manifests itself, either as ignorance or as learning, is but the manifesting of that same chit, that essence of knowledge. The difference is only in degree and not in kind. So we look at this world and we look at the things that are happening and we think, oh my God, what's going on? Love is being expressed through a huge ego, right? It's up to you to create the new narrative. It's up to you to rid yourself of a narrative, right? Don't get stressed out by these imagined stories. Right? It's always amazing to me because I sit there and read the not newspaper, but the internet, Reddit, or, God forbid I go through Google News. And by the end of it, I'm ready to go get pitchforks and, let's go do it, right? I'm sweating behind the neck and I'm snorting through my nose. I'm sitting there getting ready to go and do, right? According to ego, I've been offended. A lot of terrible situations going on here. I'm going to go fight. I'm going to add to the problem with the problem, right? What do we do when it's like that? Stop, breathe. Where are all the things you're worried about in this room? What do they inhabit in this moment? And you come to realize, I'm living someone else's narrative. The narrative of a TV, the narrative of a news network, right? Get it into your neighborhoods. Stop worrying about what's going on over that side of the world. Start to become familiar with what's going on in this side of the world, right? Learn who your council people are. Learn what the problems they're talking about are, because those problems you can help with. Those problems you can change. You're not going to be able to help the Israeli-American nonsense that's happening right now. That's not yours to worry about. So don't waste your mind on it. Yours is this neighborhood. Yours is where you walk and spend your time. When you walk there, bless everybody that you pass. Speak blessings to everyone that you see. Pray for them in your mind for positive, beautiful things. And be available to your divine presence to serve, if there's a way to serve, as an offering, as a form of worship. If there's something to do, if there's something to give, something to say. Don't worry about whether there is or not, because you're just being available. You're a tool, right? You're not the thing itself. So be that tool and walk around with the light of Satchitananda shining out of your eyes, blessing everyone you see, nodding sweetly to everyone, right? Not even waiting for a response, because there's no payment for your love. There's no payment for your greeting, for your kindness, right? And then follow the intuition, follow the inspiration. That's what it means when they say, thou art that. You can hear God inside. You can sit in the presence of God now. Anything that your mind tells you that counters that is unreal. Let it go. And as the mind keeps lining up with all the reasons that you're not good enough, you're not pure enough, you've made a mess of this, you've made a mess of that, you can't do this for whatever reason, let go because you can. Be free because you can. That's faith. Faith is not believing something for no reason. It's believing in something that you haven't learned yet. Your immortality is a matter of faith. You brought it in with you because this world could not have taught you about immortality. The only reason we're comfortable with it is because we brought it with us. This world does not have immortality in it. Infinity. No infinity in this world. To know your infinity is to be faithful because you brought it with you. This world could not teach you about infinity. It is only finite. Right? Pure love. This is the biggest task, I think, in meditation, is trying to prepare a mind, to open a mind, to accept a gift as large, as pure, and unconditioned love. You brought it with you. This world cannot teach you unconditioned love. This world cannot and will not give you unconditioned love. Where will you learn from it? From your own silent self, from your own being, which is that love, which is that wisdom, which is that existence. You are one with this moment. You are one with the I am. You are one with God. You are one with love, wisdom, existence. Pick any of those to ponder. You've been told you exist. What does it mean? What does that mean, to exist? One of my favorite ways to bliss is to just continually ask myself that. What does it mean? I exist. How do I know that? And what does that mean to me? Right? It will point to your freedom. It will be the source of your freedom. that love, unconditioned, that grace, right? My favorite saying, to accept unlimited grace, you need infinite humility. That's the struggle. Mother wants us to give us a gift that's so big, so expensive, so beautiful, so bright and shiny. None of us can pick it up because we're like, I can't possibly, I couldn't possibly, right? I could never accept that. Your task in spiritual life is to believe through faith. You can accept that. It is yours by your nature, not as the prize for begging, not because you've prayed so much and earned it, not because you finally cleared up that bad habit and fixed it once and for all. No, because you were love, and you are always love, even before you knew it. You were wisdom before you came to know it. You were free before you came to know it. Accept it, open to it, and laugh. Enjoy your life, right? See God in everything. Let everything in this world point at the divine, right? Let the noisy mind remind you that you must be somewhere silent, otherwise you would not recognize a noisy mind. Let the world of change point at that which is unchanging, because there has to be something within you that can see change that isn't in that same system, right? Let everything remind you of the beloved. Let everything you think, let everything that you say, let everything that you do be an intentional prayer for love, so that you become a blessing that you were born to be, not just to your mama, but to everyone, right? To everyone. This is what it is to be free, to have no desire of your own, no expectations of your own, just an awareness of the gift that is the divine within you, that you can give and change a world with over and over and over again, and never be one whit short of an infinite amount of love more. So go forward this week, fix this world. Fix it, right? You are that. You become what you think. Don't laugh too hard. Mother has chosen individuals to change worlds before, and sometimes she's chosen them out of little humble groups like this, right? Be bold and be strong. Get up, smile, serve, love, and get up and do it again, over and over and over again. And slowly, 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 you'll become aware of the beauty of this enlightenment that you have always lived in. You become intrigued with a little trinket here and there, a sparkle here and there. And little by little, you'll move into this glorious place within you called the kingdom of the divine, the kingdom of God. And you'll find that freedom, that senseless chuckle, that divine laughter, a heartfelt dance, the warmest embrace. You'll see God in everyone and everything around you. This is why the watchword is freedom. You're free to be what you are. wow. I didn't realize I was just opening for the closing song. All right, I'm underdressed even. All right, well, let's go through the announcements here. Oh, we've got Santa Barbara here also. Everyone's here. All right, what's the date today? There it is. Okay, so on the 22nd, next week, the Puzzle of Personal Identity by Swami Vedanta. He'll be giving that. There's Tuesday classes at 4:30 online on the Srimad Bhagavatam with Swami Sarvadevananda. That's on Tuesdays. Tuesdays at 7:30 p.m. There's the Svatasvatara Upanishad, also with Swami Sarvadevananda. And on the 24th, there's a special thing here, the Vedanta Way of Vicharana by Pravrajaka Matriprana. And then our Wednesdays, 7:30 classes, the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Thursdays, the Katha Upanishad on the 5th, and then on the 12th, Karmic Relief with Philip Goldberg. Okay, that one's already been done. The 19th, Our Legacy by Pravrajaka Matriprana. All right. Fridays at 7:30, Teachings of the Direct Disciples. Boy, you guys are busy down here. And then Saturdays, the 14th to 21st, 2:30 to 4, online only, Pravrajaka Dayaprana, the chanting class, is going on. All right, anything that I've missed?
Sound bowl on the 20th.
Crystal Bowl meditation, yes, with Swami Atmavidyananda and Alok on the 20th. All right. My goodness. This is your own place, you know. Belongs to you. It's here for you. And all the monks and nuns are here for you as well. And because of you and your hearts and your kindness, Mother is moving and working and changing and growing. So awesome. I'm your number one fan. Well, maybe not number one. I'm probably at least number 4. But I'm your fan and praying for you and thinking of you and wishing you the very best. I'll go over to the hall for Q&A or conversation in A, whatever happens. And thank you for this opportunity to talk with you this morning.
Thank you.
I think this is what we do. I don't even know, actually. Oof. All right, Ma. I don't know. Good morning, Ma. Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma.
Thank you, Swami.
Yes, yes.
Terrific, as always.
Oh, awesome. Excellent. Jai Ma.
That talk was why this place is here.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
great.
bro. Thank you very much. brother.
Awesome, thank you.
Certainly. What's going on with your leg?
Neuropathy in the feet.
Oh, no, not
Well, that's from chemotherapy.